Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to return to Slovenia for the first time in about 10 months or so. Now, if you've watched the channel before, you will know that I've reviewed maybe about 25-ish Slovenian beers, and the quality of beer that you get from down there is absolutely awesome. You know, there's some really good breweries down in that little country. But recently, I received a box of beer from one of the breweries in the Savinja Valley, who actually also make a lot of the hops that the other breweries in Slovenia use. And we're going to kick off with the reviews of the beers that they sent me today, actually. So for this review then, we are going to go to Green Gold Brewing. Once again, this is my third review from these guys, and we're having a look at a special one-off beer that they've done. This one is called the Kazbak. It's a New England hazy IPA coming in at 6% ABV, and this beer is brewed using the Kashmir hop, which is becoming more widely used throughout Europe, and also a special Czech variety called Kazbak, which you don't see very often, and I'll tell you a little bit more about the Kazbak hop later in the video. But a huge thank you to Rojnik at Green Gold Brewing for sending me this box of beer. You know, it was quite random actually, because when I first published my Green Gold reviews from I think that must have been about a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago, he commented on them and said, oh, thank you for the reviews, shared it through the Facebook and everything like that. And then just quite randomly, a couple of months back, he said, oh, I'm watching your reviews, I'm going to send you a box of beer. And it took a little while, but it did get here, thankfully, during the lockdown actually. So a huge thank you to Luca for making these Green Gold reviews possible actually. I've got about 6 or 7 different kinds of beer that we'll review on the channel. So you'll see these spaced out over maybe the next kind of 2 months, 3 months, something like that. But you will see the Green Gold Brewing beers appear once again on the channel. Since this is a Slovenian beer as well, a huge shout out to Davor Širić. He's responsible for, you know, 90%, 95% of the Slovenian beers that you see reviewed on the channel. He's sent me 2 or 3 boxes of different Slovenian things, and I will arrange with them to do another box with lots of different breweries at some point when this whole kind of virus thing blows over, because I think they're in Slovenia, they are on lockdown and can't really go out and things. So hopefully Davor and I can sort something out, and I can send him some money for another box at some point very soon. So hopefully beyond these Green Gold reviews you will see some more Slovenian beers at some point soon. But definitely nice to return to Green Gold Brewing. These guys are a really interesting little brewery, and I hope you guys enjoy seeing some more Slovenian beers over the next little while. So yeah, let's see how we get on with this one. Big shout out to both Davor in this one and to Luca from Green Gold Brewing. Let's see how we get on. So as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Green Gold Brewing. You will see some more added at some point in the near future. This is review number 3 from this brewery. There's all the usual social media down there as well. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Slovenian beers that I've reviewed for you. That's being added to whenever I get the opportunity. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Green Gold Brewing then, on to my brewery notes. So Green Gold Brewing, as I've told you before, is owned by Luca Rojnik, whose family have been growing hops for generations on their family farm in the Savinja Valley. So this farm has 41 acres of land, and apparently it's one of the largest hop farms in Europe, and it can be found to the west of Celje, and it's part of the township Tember Vesavinski Dolini, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Again, apologies for any bad Slovenian pronunciations in this video. But the family farm started around 120 years ago, and it's produced the Slovenian hop varieties such as Aurora, Bobek, Celaya, Styrian Goldings, Styrian Dragon and Styrian Wolf. I still need to try a beer that's got Styrian Dragon in it actually, but I know that Styrian Wolf is a beautiful kind of melony flavoured hop actually. It really is very nice. I wish the Slovenian hops got a little bit more kind of publicity in the craft breweries in Europe, but I guess the main reason is that Slovenia is quite a small country geographically, so probably there's just not enough volume of these hops kind of put out there. But yeah, the Styrian The Styrian Dragon and the Styrian Wolf are very, very nice hops. As I say, still need to try the Styrian Dragon, but Styrian Wolf I know is very, very nice. But there are various other hops, and these guys are doing a little bit of experimentation and things like that as well. But they started brewing beer along with growing the hops back in July of 2016, and they had their premiere at the Sir William's pub in Ljubljana, and it's gone very well for them since then. They started off with a 500 litre brew kit, and they've scaled up considerably since then. They installed their canning line in 2018, and these days they're producing around 2,700 hectolitres of beer per year, and according to Untappd they've produced around 20 different types of beer in total. And by the time I've gone through the different beers that I've got from these guys now, I will have reviewed 7 of those for you actually. So yeah, these guys, as I say, for a brewery that's only been around 2 years, to have 20 different types of beer, that's fairly good going. You know, that's about 1 different beer per month, if you like. And they've got seasonals that appear every so often. They've got core range beers. And then they've got one-offs like this one, and I thought, since this is a one-off, I think this is the one that we should kick off with, especially since it's got a very kind of quirky hop profile actually. But yeah, that's all I'm really able to tell you about Green Gold Brewing for the moment. Pardon me. As I say, a very interesting brewery, this one. It's quite nice to see a brewery starting up out of a hop farm. There's not too many breweries, I think, that can say that. You know, I do know that probably the one that is closest to this, probably the one that is closest to this, I would say, is the it would be the one that the Weimann Versuchsbrauerei in Bamberg in Germany. I mean, these guys are a maltery, but they have their they've got their pilot brewery there too, which is quite interesting. You've seen me review 1 or 2 beers from their thing as well actually. So yeah, definitely go and check out the Weimann Versuchsbrauerei as well. But this is the first brewery I've heard of that comes out from a hop farm actually, so that is pretty damn cool. I need to get down to Slovenia and have a visit of it. That's something I definitely want to do, maybe at some point next year. It'd be cool to do that in the Easter break next year or something like that. Slovenia has been on my list for quite some time actually. But yeah, that's all I can really tell you about Green Gold Brewing for the moment. If you want to learn more, you can check out the brewery website in the description below. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer and Untappd pages to learn more, and Beer Advocate as well, to learn more about the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's actually get on to this beer itself then. So I do also have a little note on the Kazbak hop that's in here. So the Kazbak hop is it's a small volume hop. There's not too much of it produced, but this is a Czech hop that was released back in 2008, and apparently it's a crossbreed between the kind of original Czech Sats hop, or Žatec as they call it, and a wild Landrus hop from the Caucasus. So it gives an alpha acid content of between 5 and 8%, and it's supposed to be like Sats on steroids. This is the flavour profile I've seen described for this. So it gives you that typical sort of earthy, grassy, floral, noble hop type mix, but it's got a little bit more kind of citrusy quality to it as well actually. And it takes its name from Mount Kazbek, which you'll find on the Russian-Georgian border actually. I think it was like, they said it was in the South Ossetia region of Russia actually. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. As I say, I'd never ever heard of this hop before, and that's one of the cool things about this brewery being on a hop farm, is they really know their stuff when it comes to hops. So you will get beers that have pretty random hops in them, like I say. So yeah, the Kashmir hop, we do know that's a kind of lemon, lime and melony type hop. It's about 13-14% alpha acid, that, and I'm pretty sure, if I remember right, that is an American hop from the Yakima Valley sort of region. So yeah, 2 very, very nice hops in this one, and I'm very curious to see how it turns out. But this beer, from what I gather, is a one-off brew, and they maybe will bring it back again at some point if they can get a hold of more Kazbak hop. But yeah, it should be really interesting, this one. So let's get it out and get on with the tasting then. And I have to say, I compliment them on the artwork of this beer. It really is very, very nice. I've always been a big fan. I always enjoyed the Terminator films actually. I really liked that idea of the singularity, where virtual intelligence can sort of outdo humans and things. You get the rise of the machines and all this. I think that's it's really quite interesting to think about. Obviously a little bit scary that could happen, but yeah, I always enjoyed the Terminator films and Arnie and things like that. But yeah, there you can see, here it is, the Green Gold Brewing symbol. Yep, and it doesn't really tell you too much about the beer on the side of this one, but they said, yeah, basically the description that's on Untappd and on the brewery and things just tells you a little bit about the Kazbak hop, and it makes a wee joke about Arnie and things like that. So yeah, I really like how this one goes together. But a 330ml can, this one, 6% ABV, as I said, Kashmir along with the Czech Kazbak hop. So without further ado, let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting. I do like the little green ring pull that this one has. So let's get this guy out and we will get on with the tasting. I'm very curious to see what this beer has in store for us. I love beers like this that have got hops that we just haven't tried before, actually. So yeah, as I've told you before, there's some really awesome breweries down in Slovenia these days. There's Pelletsson, there is Tectonic, there's Lobik, and there's some really good things down there. I'm trying to remember the name of the brewery who gave me the beer, gave Davor the beers to send me before. It's gone right out of my head now. That's bad, actually. But yeah, there's some really great breweries down there in Slovenia these days. Lobik seemed to be on the rise, as I say. Pelletsson were the first one I encountered. Tectonic is another one that Davor has let me try. And then there was the guys who Dogma, I think, were the other ones. Pivovarna Dogma. That they sent me, the batch 50 and everything like that. They've got some very nice beers as well, actually. So yeah, some great beers down in Slovenia. It seems to be a bit of a rule in Europe that if a country is good at producing wine, they also tend to be very good when it comes to producing craft beer as well, actually. So yeah, just look at this one. This has got a lovely, lovely big hazy New England style IPA, this one. Lovely kind of bright yellow colour. If I put the light through this, it's got a little bit of an orangey character to it, but it's definitely sticking towards that yellowy end of the spectrum. You could see there was a solid 2/3 finger of a frothy white head on the beer. That's just fading away to be a kind of thin foamy, it's going to eventually fade away to be just a very thin foamy layer. One or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little ones going up towards the bottom of that head there. And yeah, overall it looks really nice. It's not surprising in terms of its appearance when you consider what style it is. If I put my fingers behind the glass there, you can see this one is pretty damn hazy. That's not really surprising at all. But yeah, it looks very nice, actually, and exactly what you would expect from a New England sort of hazy IPA in my mind. So yeah, nothing surprising about the appearance of this one. Let's have a look at the aroma then and just see how we get on. Really curious about this. Oh, that's really interesting. This is a very interesting combination of things. I think there's a good bit of stuff going on from the yeast in this as well. The first thing that comes to my mind on this one is that it really has a bit of that kind of farmhousey, Vermonty type thing going on. It's really quite farmhousey type yeast that's coming out of this beer. It's got a real kind of earthy, woody, herbally kind of backbone to it. That's really unusual. I can't place whether that's something from one of these hops or whether it's, I think it's more from the yeast, actually. That's really interesting. The thing that this reminds me of, actually, is the Untappd beer that I had from Norway recently. It really does smell like one of these kind of farmhousey type yeasts. I wonder if they've got their own yeast strains, actually, that they're working on, because if they're a big hop farm, they are going to have their own labs and stuff like this to test the hops for their alpha acid and stuff. So it wouldn't be surprising if they've got their own kind of house yeast strains that they've been playing with and stuff, because this yeast, it really does smell quite farmhousey, but it's not like any other yeast that I've come across before. It really has a very kind of it's really got a bit of this woody quality to it, a little bit of that kind of vegetally, herbally type thing like I'm talking about as well. And yeah, it's really interesting how that kind of combines together with this one. So yeah, the more that you smell of it though, it does kind of smoothen out a little bit. You start to get the pale malty qualities, a little bit of the thicker white bready wheaty note in there. And you do also pick out some of the kind of oaty, creamy notes as well, but really that woody, it smells very woody to me, this beer. It really does. It smells like woody and sort of vegetally and herbally. I really like how the aroma of this one comes together. It's very unusual. Like I say, I really like how everything sort of conjoins together in the aroma of this beer. I didn't expect it to be quite as farmhousey as this, because the Cashmere that I had from these guys before, which is the only IPA I've had from them, I remember that being very kind of smooth and very kind of creamy. This one is definitely more of a sort of farmhousey thing, and you can quite often find this with some of these hazy IPAs. They can smell really farmhousey, but then when you have them, when you actually taste them, they come across as very kind of smooth and wheaty and oaty and things like that as well. So it's a really, they're an interesting beast, these sort of hazy IPAs actually. So yeah, I really like how the aroma comes together on this one. Thumbs up to Green Gold Brewing for pulling off something quite unusual. But I wonder, I would love to know what type of yeast is in this, if it's maybe a Vermont yeast or something like that. But it really does have a little bit of that kind of farmhousey thing. That's the first impression I've had of this one. We've covered the malt base quite a bit in this. As I say, you do get a little bit of wheatiness out of it. You can smell some of that pale malty note. I don't really get much in the way of a kind of biscuity sweetness out of this one, but I do get a little bit of the creamy oatiness at the front of the nose, in fairness. But yeah, on the hoppy side of things then, this is really nice. You can smell a little bit of that light earthiness that you would normally get from the Sats, and this will be the Kazbak hop, like I say. There's a good bit of floral quality to this one, and then the grassiness, you get a lot of grassiness out of this. The green side of the hops for me really lean towards that grassy side of things, but it comes across as really quite zesty. That's the really interesting thing, and of course it's quite a big lemon lime zesty quality you're getting out of this beer in terms of the fruitiness. Now when you've got Cashmere in there, that's not really surprising, because Cashmere is a big lemon limey hop generally, but then you've also got the juiciness of the you've also really got the juiciness of the melon sitting in there underneath. Like the melon, when you take in the aroma quite deeply, you can feel the juiciness of the melons sort of forming the linchpin of the fruity side of things, and then further forward on the nose it feels a little bit more kind of lemony and zesty and things actually. And I think that the lemon and lime seem to balance each other out quite well. You can smell the slightly juicier qualities of the lime, but you also get the kind of higher pungency that you'd expect of the lemon as well. But the melon, as I say, forms the linchpin, and those other two fruits kind of sit on top of that, to be honest with you. So I really like that about how this beer sort of this beer kind of joins together. So yeah, this one I think is a very nice and very unusual aroma actually. It's got those farmhousey notes, like I say, and then you've got these two hops. You've got that kind of quintessential Czech sort of Žatec type things, just Sats hop from the Kazbak, but then you can definitely feel the sort of citrusy zesty notes in this are just a little bit more, they've been turned up to 11 if you like. So yeah, I like how the aroma of this one comes out. I'm curious to see whether this Kazbak hop is a little bit like, the Hercules and Perl of the German kind of beer thing. The Hercules and the Perl are kind of similar to the Hallertausen Tettnangers, but just a little bit more just a little bit kind of higher up if you like. But yeah, let's have a taste of this one then and see how we go on. This one is the Albi Kazbak, a 6% New England Hazy IPA with Kazbak hops from the Czech Republic and Cashmere hops from America, brewed by Green Gold Brewing just in the Savinja Valley in Slovenia. Thank you again to Luca for sending me this review. Big shout out to Davor. Let's get stuck into this one. Slanje, skål, na zdravje. Yeah, that's quite an interesting one actually. This beer, it really does strike me as being quite first impression is it really does strike me as being quite farmhousey, this one. Again, that sort of yeasty quality in there, that it really does strike me as being quite a farmhousey beer rather than anything else, this, and I like that about it. I do like that, but the way the hops come out in this one are really nice as well. So be aware with this one. This isn't one of your kind of typical smooth, sort of creamy New England IPAs. This is definitely more of a sort of farmhousey, kind of grainy, woody type one actually. I like how this goes together. If you like fake IPAs, for example, this is one that's going to tick the boxes for you. So this is quite different. This isn't really what I expected from this beer, in fairness. It does come across a little bit more like a fake IPA actually. So yeah, just be aware of that when you try it. It's nice. I did not expect that from this beer. I really thought this was going to be, you know, a big kind of smooth, creamy kind of IPA in there, because it says on the side here it's got flaked oats, malted wheat, and barley in it. But as I say, this one, you know, if you're a fan of the likes of the Alchemist beers, the Heady Topper, and I always forget the name of the black one, actually, but you know, if you're fans of those beers, you will. This is the kind of same sort of style, if you like, definitely more of a farmhousey beer. I'll tell you something, the way the juicy fruits come out in this is really, really very nice. So let's try and just break down the flavour of this beer then. So middle of your palate, you can feel straight away it's blanketed with this kind of pale malty quality there. As you progress further into the palate, you can feel a little bit of biscuity sweetness just in the centre of your palate, and if you go further back, you do start to get those kind of woody, herbally, slightly spicy things from the more farmhousey yeast that's in here. If you just go back there, you can feel the back of your tongue does dry out a little bit and become a wee bit more spicy. So, you know, wheaty bitiness, as I say, a little bit of that woody quality in there. Not so, maybe a little touch herbal, but not so much, and not really vegetal, to be honest. More woody, spicy, and kind of wheaty. I feel like the back of the tongue actually does get quite dry on this one, but as I say, if you come further forward, you get the more light kind of pale malty qualities, a little bit of biscuity sweetness coming out on top of it there, but again the biscuitiness comes out a little bit further into the aftertaste. And then as you reach the border between the kind of front third of the tongue, which is the fruity part of the beer, when you reach that border between the malty and the fruity side of things, you do start to get a bit more of the kind of oaty creaminess out of this one. But it's the oaty creaminess, I don't find it to be too prominent in this beer actually. Yeah, I mean, you will get a little bit more of it, but you can really feel, as I say, I find that the malty and yeasty side of this beer, it really does dry out the further you go into the aftertaste actually, and it does get a little bit more kind of spicy and dry. So it's really interesting just how everything sort of combines in this beer. But in fairness, I do feel that the further you go into the aftertaste, you do feel, so when you take the beer in, it comes across as quite grainy and dry and things, but at the same time it's quite wet. Then the beer just dries out a little bit, it gradually gets drier and drier and drier, and then as you get into the other part of the aftertaste, it starts to, you know, it really starts to push out and be a little bit more kind of sweeter and smooth and things like that. So yeah, I really like how this how the malty and the yeasty side of things go together on this, but then it really starts to lean towards these juicy kind of citrusy fruits. The melon, I would say, is quite prominent in this one. But on the hoppy side of things then, let's focus on that now, because that's the main interest with this beer, is the Kazbak hop. So in the back corners of the palate, you definitely get a bit of that earthiness there, that typical kind of noble earthiness. I think the earthiness is a little touch stronger than you'd normally find from the straight up Žatec Sats hop. I think it is a little bit stronger. But then as you come further forward from this beer, you do get a little bit of a herbal quality out of it, which is kind of interesting. That builds a good bridge between the yeasty, malty side of the beer and the hoppy side of things. But then as you move further forward along the sides of the palate, you can feel the beer just gradually building and building and building and being more sort of floral. It's not quite spicy, but it does get a little bit floral and dry towards the front corners of the palate, and as you go round the very front curve of the tongue, it's just a little bit lighter, and it's a little bit lighter and more grassy in my mind actually. And then this is where you get all the really interesting fruity qualities out of it. So as I always say, the fruity esters of the beer, they come out in that little oily bubble behind the kind of front curve of the tongue actually, and this one, it's really nice how that goes together actually. So yeah, this is, I like how the fruity side of this beer goes together. It's quite a wet fruitiness that you get out of this one. It's not kind of big and juicy or oily or anything like that. It is quite just, it's just quite a wet, refreshing type juiciness that you get out of this one. So yeah, let's examine that then. So if you go to the back of that oily part of the palate where the fruits come out, it's definitely got a little bit of a kind of, there is a wee bit of a darker kind of note to this one, but really the whole fruity side of this beer leans towards the it really leans towards the citrusy side of things. The melon flavours on this, they sort of sit all over that front part of your tongue. But then as you reach, and you've also got a little bit of the kind of more sour kind of lime type flavour there. You can feel as you move further forward on the palate there, you do get more of the kind of limey notes pushing their way out of the beer, but then you can feel the sort of pungency of the lemon as you reach the very front tip of your tongue behind the grassy notes. You can feel the lemon pungency. You've got a little bit of the more kind of darker limey flavours in there, and then you've got the juicier melon flavours coming out of this one as well. And of course, you know, Kashmir will give you those big kind of melony flavours too, but you know, it's just interesting how that goes together. I mean, I remember from trying the Styrian Wolf, that was quite an oily, that was a really quite oily melony character that you got out of that, but I think with the Kashmir it is a little bit more kind of wet and things. But this, I do wonder how much of with this Kazbak hop, I do wonder if some of these woody, herbally flavours are coming from that, rather than just from the yeast. I mean, when the flavours are in the middle of the palate, that kind of would indicate that it's the yeast, but I do wonder, the more and more we go into the aftertaste with this, you start to get a bit of a woody kind of herbally thing on the back sides of the palate as well. So I do wonder how much of the woodiness comes from this Kazbak hop actually. It's very interesting that. So what I would say is this beer really has given me a lot to think about. The way that the fruits come out in this is quite different. As I say, melony towards the back, and a little bit more, a bit of the limey darkness in there as well. Then, you know, as you come further forward from that, I think it's really very nice actually how all of this goes together. So thumbs up to Green Gold Brewing for this one. What I would say with this beer is this is more of a kind of quirky beer. I think if you compare this to probably what some of their core range beers are going to be like, and what I remember Kashmir being like as well, I think this is more of a sort of quirky beer rather than one of their, you know, really quite sort of well-known ones, if that makes sense. This is more of a sort of farmhouse hazy IPA in my opinion than a kind of smooth and creamy sort of thing. That makes it really interesting. I like trying these different kinds of beers, of course, but this beer for me is one of the more quirky ones I reckon that you will find from Green Gold, and we will learn that, of course, as we go through this this mini-series and try some of the other ones. Most of the beers, I think pretty much all the other ones that I'm going to review, actually, that Luca sent me, are all different kinds of IPAs. There's Session IPAs, New Englands, and a couple of West Coasters in there as well, actually. So I'm looking forward to trying those two, and they've all got different varieties of Slovenian hops in them too, so that makes them very interesting actually. So yeah, that's all we really need to say, I think, on the flavour of this one. The surprising thing, more of a farmhousey IPA, like I said, some really interesting flavour combinations between the sort of melony notes and the kind of lemon limey qualities, and quite woody and herbal in some ways as well. I like how this goes together. So yeah, in terms of the mouthfeel then, let's talk about that. That's our last thing. So yeah, I would say that this is quite it's at the bottom end of mid-bodied, this kind of beer. Bottom end of mid-bodied. Carbonation does have a level of crispness to it. The mouthfeel overall of this beer is actually pretty wet. I mean, as I said, quite a few of the Slovenian beers that I've had before have been more oily rather than anything else, and I always got the impression that Slovenians like their beer to be a little bit more oily. That's quite a common thing actually in countries where it's wine that's the primary drink. They do like their beers just to be that little bit oily, like wine. But this is definitely one of the wetter beers I remember coming across from Slovenia. Bear in mind though, it's been 10 months since I've had something from Slovenia, so I'm not sure how well that statement holds up. But in terms of the hoppy bitterness and IBUs and things, I think this beer, I think it's, yeah, this one sits around the this one I think sort of sits around the standard sort of 30-ish IBUs that you would expect of the New England hazy type style. This one, actually, the fruit, you can feel the fruit kind of spreading around the edges of the palate the more that you drink of this as well, which is quite interesting. But yeah, I think about 30 IBUs with this beer, 40 at an absolute push. The malt base, like I say, it is quite light and smooth. It does dry out a little bit. The yeasty qualities, I think, give the beer a little bit of spiciness and stuff like that too, which is interesting. And you've got a nice kind of quite wet, juicy, fruity quality to this beer as well. So I mean, overall, this is a really nice and quite quirky beer in my opinion, and I'm glad that I was able to review this for you here on the channel. I think this is a very interesting beer, so a huge thank you to Luca for sending this one up to me. This is one of his one-off beers, and I think it's come across really quite nicely. It would be interesting to to try a single hop Kazbak beer and just see what it's like on its own, and see, you know, just exactly get a feel. It'd be nice to see the Kazbak in like a Czech style Pilsen, something like that. That would be an interesting experiment to try. I'd love to just see how it compares with the standard Sats and Žatec hop, because obviously Kashmir is a high alpha acid hop and you're going to get a lot of fruits and things out of it, and I'm sure that the Kazbak hop is contributing to the fruitiness of this beer. But I would love, when I try new hops, I do like trying single hop things, so it would be cool to try a Kazbak single hopped Pils or something like that. Maybe some of you guys watching can recommend one that I can review at some point. That would definitely be a cool thing to try. But yeah, you know, kudos to Green Gold Brewing for taking a hop that's not very well known and putting it in one of their beers and getting it a little bit more out there. So this is a hop that's not really produced in much volume from what I understand, and it's quite difficult to get a hold of. So yeah, that's one of the really great things about when you've got a brewery run by a hop head. Basically, he knows about pretty much every hop variety that you're going to have. So yeah, this gets a thumbs up from me. This is a really quirky beer. I think this probably isn't one of the most kind of in-your-face beastly beers that you're going to get from Green Gold Brewing, but it's one that's got a real novelty value to it and a real educational value, I think, if you're interested in beer ingredients and stuff like that. So bear that in mind when you try this one. This is a very nice beer actually. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. This one is the Albi Kazbak, a hazy IPA coming in at 6% ABV from Green Gold Brewing in the Savinja Valley in Slovenia. Big thank you to Luca for making this review possible. Once again, a huge shout out to Davor as well, who's been a loyal follower of the channel for a number of years, and this is a beer that you definitely need to check out for yourselves. Once again, thank you again for watching. Check out my social media, check out Green Gold Brewing, and I will catch you guys very soon. Very nice to have some more Slovenian beers for you here on the channel, and you will see more over the coming weeks. Slanja, skål, na zdravje.